I když mluvím česky, budu mluvit anglicky, sice jsem se naučil češtinu od slyšené od svoje rodiče, vím, že existují 7 pádů, ale vůbec nevím, k čemu jsou. Tak začnu tak. In 2008, the financial crisis opened the Pandora's box on everything that the corporate world was doing right and wrong. And it wasn't just in America, but it had effects in every part of the world. And a lot of what happened was that there was a focus on bailing out banks and coming back to doing things that we did the old way. A lot of the focus was on just, like I said, going back to how we did things. And if you look at it, it's actually a result of the consumerism and the materialistic and the kind of greed of companies or corporations on solely focused on profit. So this was going back 6 years. I was still kind of like thinking, okay, it's going to get better and whatnot, and everything will be fine. But then I started thinking, what does it actually mean, this corporation? Why is it just for profit? So I hope to answer a lot of these questions in terms of why the corporate world is focused solely on profit and what we can do about it. It all began a long time ago, actually. Last year I turned 40. But I was born in Canada to my Czech parents. My dad, who basically was someone who liked to pinch every penny and was watching everything from a perspective of rationality. And thank goodness he did that, because now he's living comfortably retired here in the Czech Republic in Popůvky. My mother, on the other hand, she was the, let's say, typical consuming person, which liked to buy a lot of stuff and make herself happy and pretty and all that, which is fine. But that kind of diametrical disposition caused a dilemma for me. I remember one of the conversations my dad and mom had was my mom came home with something. She said, I brought this new dress. My dad said, well, how much did it cost? $300. And I said, that's a lot of money. But it was on sale. It was 50% off. So this kind of thing, you know, I unfortunately, growing up in that society, thank goodness for my dad in educating me in the wiseness of money. I never went into debt, never got myself into situations where I couldn't get out of, except for going into university, where, because in Canada we have to pay for school. Anyhow, fast forward to a few years ago, where I suffered not only material loss, but almost lost my life. Not only once, but twice. I suffered addiction, I suffered depression, but here I am today. It's sometimes hard to talk about these things, but it's all related, because I think there's a lot of pressure in society for us to feel better about ourselves, instant gratification, buying new things, little toys, gadgets, drinking, whatever. So the way I look at it is that it wasn't actually a bad thing that these things happened to me. I look at it as a blessing in disguise. So I'm actually excited to be here today to talk to you about my experiences. So let's take a step aside and say, if I ask, what's the purpose of a doctor or a hospital? It's basically to heal the sick. If we talk about a teacher or a school, it's about education and sharing knowledge. If we talk about lawyers or courts of law, okay, all lawyers, jokes aside, it's to protect those who are less fortunate, who've been done wrong. And of business, what is the purpose of business? To make profit. But who decided that? Economics? Why do we accept that as something that's a given? Let me ask you a different question, though. If we talk about the human body as a whole, a complex organization of systems and whatnot, if I ask you the question, what's more important, the heart or the lungs, which would you say, if you had to pick? Well, neither, because you'd be dead without one or the other. So I started thinking about how this focus solely on profit has made us sort of kind of stupid and thinking that it's only the pursuit of profit that is the most important part of a corporation. Now, if we look to nature for some inspiration, which is more effective? Here we have the triangle again, but a different kind of triangle, where man tries to dominate and tries to control things and tries to impede on how things are done, or the one on the right in terms of the real ecosystem where everybody's actually part of one big, happy, complex system. why am I talking about this? Because it's kind of like the left really represents an organizational structure, but the one on the right really reflects how reality exists. So how do we get from left to right? Well, a lot of it is because it was focused on profits. But let me give you a solution that I think that could work, and it's called stakeholder relationship management. Does anybody not know who a stakeholder is, or what stakeholder means? Okay, I see some hands. Because I was talking to a friend yesterday, and I said this word, and he's Czech, and he said he pictured a man holding a piece of meat in his hand. So basically, it's I didn't even think of that. But basically, it's those people who are all involved with the company. So it's not only the shareholders, which are in the down here. Yes, you need to have sound business practices in order to maintain a sound business and to be profitable and to have growth and whatnot. But it's the two-way relationship, as you see the arrows on the graph. It's not just a one-way. It's not the company dictating how things should be. The problem is we don't see it as a complex organization, as like the human body. So if we look at employees, managers, owners, suppliers, they are all integral parts of this complex system. The point is that it's not about shareholders. Shareholders are one part that have an equal representation, just like everybody else. And the fact is, this works. From the research that I've done, there's a lot of companies in the States, unfortunately in Europe not so much, but more in the States, that have focused on this kind of model, and it works. The results are maybe not so great short term, but long term, they actually exceed different companies. There's one example of a food market, it's called Whole Foods Markets, that has had steady growth over the last 20 years, and they have this kind of model. And when some shareholder says to them, well, you're spending too much money on employee pay, or you're treating your suppliers too well, but it all works. So if people are focused on short-term growth and short-term profit and short-term thinking, let them think that. But the fact is, long-term, we have to think about these things differently. So let me ask you a question about for-profit or not-for-profit. Is it really a question of good or evil? In extreme cases, yes, but I think what we see happening in society is a merging or coming together. Lots of companies are being established for profit that actually have at their core non-profit characteristics. And vice versa, you have non-profit organizations that are trying to make money, but investing that money back into local causes and communities and whatnot. So basically, this brings me to the fact of the conscious corporation. The conscious corporation basically takes those the stakeholder diagram that I showed you before, and some of the aspects of the non-profit, and combine them into these different individual level values. On the organizational level, it means these different things, but in general, it's a combination of the two. Right now, I'm actually working for a company that's for profit, and I am also working for a nonprofit, so I've got feet in both sides, but I think that the future really is about the coming together of these two areas in order to make the world a better place. In conclusion, Albert Einstein said, not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted. That's all I have to say today.